Hey guys, it's been a while. I haven't made a video in like 3 weeks. If you've been wondering what I've been doing, I've just kind of been busy and also playing games and things have been happening. Additionally, I didn't really have many products coming in to test anymore, so it has been a while for me to put something out, but more things are coming now, so more videos coming out soon. Anyway, welcome back to another video here. Also, today is Easter Monday where I am, so hope you guys all had a good Easter weekend, do lots of stuff. I saw JJ Lin's concert here in Melbourne and some other things, so it's been great. And I hope you guys will spend time with your loved ones as well. Today we have the Skypad 3.0. As you can see, the pad is in the box right now because I do want to show you guys the unboxing. Now, this box that the Skypad comes in is really nice, right? This wasn't what I was expecting it to be like. Well, I didn't really know what to expect because I didn't look at any videos to do with Skypads. And all I can say is that this is actually a really premium box. It felt kind of like leather, even though it's not leather, but this like finish is super nice. As you can see, they have packaged it with lots of foam and stuff to protect it, but all in all, it is a really nice presentation. It makes it feel like a work of art. So here we have the Skypad Sora, or Sora Pad for short. Now, Sora means sky in Japanese, in Nihongo Sora, so you can still call this the Sora Pad, and that just means Skypad, obviously. So in terms of price, the regular XL would be 120 US dollars, so in Australia it'll be 180 Australian dollars. You can buy this from Osmod Shop, they stock it now. Used to be M-Wave, but M-Wave doesn't have any anymore. Now there is also a smaller size than this, which would be $150. So this is the XL version, and it is 400 Y-axis and 500 on the X-axis. So it's not a small pad by any means. I really do like the sizing. Unfortunately, I forgot what this special edition Sora pad costs. This was a limited edition release, so it had a bit of an extra markup. Nonetheless, I bought this secondhand, so I didn't actually pay the full retail price. And even now, if you do want to buy one of these, you have to pay resale, so you don't really need to know the price of that. You just got to know that the pad is the same as the regular ones. It's just got a drawing on it. It is a glass mouse pad, as you guys would know by then. So even though it has this printing, the printing is underneath the glass surface, so it's not actually a perfect aesthetic look. Unless you look at it straight from above, you don't see that like light refraction. So as you can see, I actually have the Bruce Lee X2 out again for this, and you'll find out why later. Pad itself is relatively heavy. It's to be expected because it is a glass mouse pad. Now, in terms of the base, there are 4 round rubber bases on the corners of the pad, and that's what holds it in place. So you combine that with the weight of the pad and it really just doesn't move. You can drag it a little sometimes if you really need to push it somewhere like this, but in general, the pad does not move during gameplay at all, so that's perfectly fine. Build quality is excellent. I got this and I was very impressed with it. No doubt that this is a very nice pad, and honestly, like, it's at the point where I'd rather hang this up as a piece of artwork than just use it as a mouse pad. With the previous hard pad I reviewed, which was the Skypad Kin, I talked about how it was sticky to the skin, and that was a major turnoff for me. In terms of the Skypad, it still has that same issue. Not as bad as the Serapads did, that was quite surprising. But arm sleeves make this perfectly work fine. We'll talk about arm sleeves later. I think at this point it's a characteristic of all glass pads that they'll just be somewhat sticky to the skin. It really depends on your skin and body type as well, because personally my skin is more sticky than some other people's. I stick, maybe you don't. It makes me realize why people use arm sleeves on these pads. When you swipe the mouse on it, there is no texture whatsoever, and it feels so good during lazy moments when I'm just like browsing. I'm like, oh, I don't want to move stuff. I don't really want to swing my arm around. I just want to do this, and then feel super nice. Also, another bright side is that this pad is way less scratchy than the Skypad Kin was. So I complained when I was on the Skypad Kin, I was like, oh, that thing feels like it's destroying my skates. The sound was really scratchy, and I didn't really like that. Even though normally I can't hear it, it still put me off, but the Skypad doesn't really have that issue. An arm sleeve is definitely essential on this pad. You need an arm sleeve or else you're not going to get that consistency. Ideally, you want the ones that cover up to your palm, either the full hand or the ones that at least cover up to here in your palm, because that's where the part of the palm that touches the pad is. So that for me, that is still sticking when I'm using the mouse. I'm getting contact here, and that is sticking on the pad and making it inconsistent. So in terms of speed and control, this pad is extremely fast, right? We all know that this is probably one of the fastest pads, if not the fastest pad available on the market. I can definitely agree to that because I did a little spin test and I was like, damn, this thing is like spinning. But it's not at the level where I feel like it's uncontrollable. So I think at this point, I can probably aim well enough to use any speed mouse pad and still like find it controllable. I definitely still have room for improvement if I was to commit to the Skypad as well. However, the stickiness on my palm is actually making this mouse pad inconsistent. So contrary to people's beliefs, and everyone's like, oh, I'm going to buy this pad because it lasts forever and it's the most consistent thing, you know, even when I was putting down pressure, the glide still doesn't really change and all of that. Yes, that's true, but that's given the perfect conditions for that. Because my hands and my palm is still touching the pad and it sticks, when I start moving the mouse around, sometimes it does little stutters because my hand itself is stuttering as it gets dragged along the pad. If I had an arm sleeve that covered all the way up, I wouldn't have this issue. I don't enjoy having arm sleeves that cover all the way up to my hand. I want the mouse to be contacted into my palm. I want to feel it with my hand. So having that sleeve really is a bit of a put off. Fingertip grippers might not have this problem because you might just hold the mouse with only your fingers and you don't really have as much palm contact. Some people rest their hands down when they're doing fingertip grips. Some people have their palms elevated and don't actually touch the pad. So if that's you, then you wouldn't have this problem. Otherwise, if you don't mind the arm sleeve, you also wouldn't have this problem. It was very, very nice to use this on Apex and Overwatch and other tracking based heavy games. Worked for Valorant, but my consistency was a bit lacking when I was trying that. Now, as you can see on the glide test, this thing just glides so perfectly smooth. Everything's all even and consistent. I really can't complain about it. This is a nice pad. It just so happens that it doesn't fit my use case. There is one single fatal flaw on this pad that I've come to experience. And that's also the reason why I have the Bruce Lee X2 here instead of my usual XM2WE. There is a sensor scanning issue with the pad, right? It might be an LOD problem or whatever. But essentially, when I was using the XM2WE and I swiped the mouse around, it starts stuttering, it jitters, and the sensor isn't registering the pad properly. I thought it might have been an LOD issue, so I went and downloaded the XM2WE software, and it's like, oh, I can only choose 1 or 2 millimeter liftoff distance. It doesn't go any higher. Neither of those fix the problem. It still stutters. And it also happens especially with bigger, wider ranges of motion, because as you swipe the mouse to one end of the extremity, sometimes you start lifting it up a little bit. Like I swipe the right end starts lifting off a little, or the same thing with the left. You know, you do this kind of motion as you swipe, and that might cause the sensor to slightly lift off and it just starts registering inconsistently. This means that in order to use this mouse, in order to use this mouse pad, I am forced to use certain mice, such as back to the X2. Now the X2 still had this happen very, very occasionally, like way less than the XM2WE, so it was actually usable. In order to counter that, you might need to play high sense, so you keep the mouse flat on the pad the whole time since you're only doing this, and you don't need a big range of motion because you're playing on low sense. But I'm a low sense player, so I need that big range of motion. And therefore that just means I can't use this pad because my main mouse doesn't work on this, and I start stuttering when I do big swipes. That just leaves us into one point, right? Who should actually buy this? What conditions should you meet for this pad to be an ideal pad for you? Now, first of all, I think you need to be either a fingertip gripper or a full sleeve user. You need something to prevent yourself from sticking onto the pad and therefore reducing your consistency. You want the glide to always be the same. And next thing, you might want to be a high sense player. If you have low sense and you have a wide range of motion, then there is a chance that your mouse stops registering. The sensor doesn't scan onto the pad properly. Otherwise, you might want to use mice with higher LOD or just sensors that don't seem to have this issue. It's not like I've tested every mouse and every sensor onto this pad, but at least the 3370 and the 33995 on the X2 Bruce Lee and the XM2WE, I do get that little bit of inconsistency on the stutter and the scanning when I'm doing the big range of motion, so make sure you check that. And lastly, if you meet those conditions, right, then this is a good pad for you, especially if you're the person that says, I want a pad that's permanently consistent and lasts forever, I don't need to change a pad for a while, plus it's really nice and premium feeling. And you also main games like Apex and Overwatch, or you're trying to force yourself to just practice your aim and aim better because the faster pad trains that, then this could be the pad for you. Nonetheless, I am definitely not going to main this pad. I'll bring it out and play around with it occasionally, but the fact that I just can't use my mice on this pad is the biggest turnoff. If I ever get the chance to, I'll probably hang it out as a piece of artwork, just stick it on a wall or something. Anyway, that's the end of this video. There's a million other Skypad videos out there, you guys can go watch them. This is just my take. Main issues are hard pad sticking leading to inconsistencies, and the sensor issue and not scanning during wide ranges of motion. That's the only two really complaints I have about it, but otherwise this is a very, very good, very, very nice hard pad. If those issues could be fixed, right? If I started being a full sleeve user and my mice worked perfectly fine on this, I would actually main this pad because it's surprisingly nice to me, right? I didn't think I would like a hard pad as much as I do for this. Even though throughout this video I don't sound particularly enthusiastic about how much I like this pad, I do. Thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.